Hi, horse friends. If someone is convicted of abusing an animal, should they ever be allowed to own another one? It's a question that sparks strong emotions among horse owners, dog owners, farmers, veterinarians, and animal lovers around the world. Most of us have seen heartbreaking stories where animals suffered because they ended up in the wrong hands. And whenever those stories make headlines, one question almost always follows. How was this person allowed to own an animal again? That question is now at the center of a major debate in the United Kingdom. A petition that gathered nearly 240,000 signatures has prompted members of parliament to debate whether the country should create a register of convicted animal abusers and automatically impose lifetime bans on anyone convicted of animal abuse or neglect. At first glance, the proposal sounds straightforward. If someone has been convicted of abusing animals, make sure everyone knows about it and never allow them to own animals again. But as the debate unfolded, lawmakers, charities, veterinarians, and animal welfare organizations found themselves asking a much more complicated question. Would these changes actually make animals safer? Or could they create new problems while solving only part of the issue? Today, we're going to break down what was proposed, why so many people supported it, why others have serious concerns, and what this debate could mean for the future of animal welfare. So let's get started. The petition itself was created by B. Elton, who said that through her work cleaning homes for people in need, she had repeatedly encountered animals living in poor conditions under owners with histories of neglect or abuse. She argued that current laws leave too much discretion to the courts and allow convicted offenders to obtain animals again after serving their sentences. Her petition asked Parliament for two major changes. First, create a publicly searchable register listing everyone convicted of animal abuse. Second, automatically impose a lifetime ban on owning animals after conviction. The idea resonated with hundreds of thousands of people. Within just a few months, the petition had collected almost 240,000 signatures, well above the 100,000 required for Parliament to consider it for a debate. That alone tells us something important. Animal welfare is becoming an increasingly significant public issue. People aren't simply asking for stronger penalties after abuse occurs. Many want systems that prevent abuse from happening again. For horse owners, this conversation may sound familiar. We've all heard stories where someone is prohibited from owning animals for a period of time, only to later acquire more horses through another person, another property, or another arrangement. That creates understandable frustration. If someone has already demonstrated serious cruelty towards animals, should society take additional steps to prevent repeat offenses? During the parliamentary debate, several MPs acknowledged that this concern is very real. Jacob Collier, who opened the debate, pointed out that the overwhelming public support reflected how deeply people care about preventing animal cruelty. He also noted that many animal welfare organizations believe current protections are not always sufficient. But agreeing that there's a problem doesn't necessarily mean everyone agrees on the solution. One of the biggest discussions centered around lifetime bans. Many people assume someone convicted of severe animal cruelty should never own another animal again. Others argue that every case is different. Some offenses involve intentional cruelty. Others involve neglect related to mental health issues, financial hardship, hoarding disorders, or situations that may eventually improve. Because of those differences, UK courts currently have discretion when deciding whether someone should receive an ownership ban and how long that ban should last. The petition argued that discretion creates inconsistency. Supporters believe automatic lifetime bans would remove uncertainty and provide stronger protection. However, government representatives argued that mandatory lifetime bans in every single case could be disproportionate because not all convictions involve identical circumstances. That brings us to the second proposal, the public register. This is where the debate became even more interesting. At first, Many people hear public register and immediately think it sounds like a logical solution. If breeders, rescues, shelters, veterinarians, and boarding facilities could search a database before placing an animal, couldn't that stop repeat offenders? Some organizations believe it could become another useful tool for protecting animals. But several major welfare charities express significant concerns. One of the biggest worries is vigilant behavior. A public searchable database doesn't just allow rescues or veterinarians to identify offenders, it allows everyone to identify them. Some charities warn that public lists could lead to harassments, threats, intimidations, or retaliation that extend far beyond the legal punishments already imposed by the courts. Instead, some organizations support targeted disclosure. In other words, allowing the appropriate authorities, enforcement agencies, and organizations to access information when necessary without making it broadly available to the entire public. Government representatives ultimately argued that targeted disclosure currently offers a better balance between protecting animals and avoiding unintended consequences. Another issue discussed during the debate involves what some MPs described as legal loopholes. One example raised was the possibility that someone banned from owning animals could simply place those animals under the name of a spouse, family member, or another individual while still maintaining control over them. That point may resonate with many horse owners. Horse ownership isn't always straightforward. Animals may be registered under one person's name while another person pays the bills, manages the property, or makes daily care decisions. Determining who actually controls an animal can sometimes become legally complicated. Closing those kinds of loopholes could potentially strengthen existing bans without necessarily requiring an entirely new public registry. The UK government also pointed out that current laws already provide significant authority to courts. Judges can issue disqualification orders preventing convicted offenders from owning animals. Courts also have the authority to determine appropriate penalties based on the facts of each individual case. Government officials argued that existing legal tools already address many of the concerns raised in the petition and stated they currently have no plans to introduce either a public register or mandatory automatic lifetime bans. It is also important to understand what this parliamentary debate actually means. Some headlines can make it sound like Parliament was voting on whether to create a new law. That's not how petition debates work. When a petition reaches the required number of signatures, MPs debate the issue, discuss the arguments, question minuters, and place the topic on the public record. But these debates do not automatically result in legislation, and they do not end with a binding vote to implement the petition's requests. So where does this leave things today? The conversation is far from over. Nearly 250,000 demonstrated that they want stronger protection for animals. Lawmakers acknowledged widespread concern. Animal welfare organizations largely agree that preventing repeat abuse is essential. Where opinions begin to differ is how best to accomplish that goal. Should information be public? Should judges retain discretion? Should lifetime bans always be mandatory? Or should improvements focus on strengthening enforcement of existing laws? These aren't simple questions. They're legal questions, ethical questions, practical questions. And most importantly, they're questions that directly affect animal welfare. For those of us in the horse community, this debate also reminds us that welfare extends beyond nutrition, veterinary care, and training. It includes laws, enforcement, accountability, education, and prevention. Protecting horses doesn't begin only after abuse is discovered. Ideally, it begins long before an animal is ever placed into an unsafe situation. Whether future reforms involve stronger ownership bans, improved enforcement, better information sharing between agencies, or entirely different solutions, one thing seems very clear. Public concern about animal welfare continues to grow, and lawmakers are increasingly being asked to respond. Only time will tell whether this particular petition ultimately changes the UK law. But has already accomplished one important thing. It has placed animal welfare squarely on the national conversation, and conversations like these often become the starting point for future change. Thank you so much for joining us, and remember, I am not AI. If you listen closely, you can hear me breathing.